1927, Leonard Woolley unsealed tomb PG 800 at Ur, intact after 46 centuries. Over 2 kilograms of gold in a single headdress, lapis lazuli, carnelian. A cylinder seal naming her Puab, not as any king's wife, but as ruler in her own right. Then a claim went viral. Her DNA doesn't match any human on Earth. No one has actually sequenced it. So what is this tomb really hiding? Gold leaves shaped as poplar and willow, weighing more than 2 kilograms, rested atop Puabi's skull when Woolley first peered into tomb PG 800. The headdress alone eclipsed the combined treasures of most royal graves in Sumer. Strings of lapis lazuli, carved in Afghanistan, carried overland and by river, draped her hair. Near her right hand, a cylinder seal of deep blue stone bore a cuneiform inscription, Puabi Nin. In Sumerian, Nin could mean queen, priestess, or high lady. What set this seal apart was not just its craftsmanship, but the absence of any king's name. Most royal women's seals from Ur name a husband or father, anchoring their authority to a man. Puabi's seal stands alone. No king, no dynastic tie, only her own name and title. Silver bowls, a lion-headed armature, and carnelian beads from the Indus Valley crowded the burial platform. The catalogue listed 27 carnelian beads, each drilled and polished, and a set of silver vessels, one a fluted tumbler, another a shallow bowl, each incised with motifs visible only under raking light. The gold headdress, at 2,215 grams, was fashioned with riveted plates and inlaid stones, a technical feat for its time. A golden lapis lyre, found among the grave goods, echoed the ritual music of temple ceremonies. Even the original excavation notes remarked on the density of precious materials. Crown, gems, flowers, all without a king's name. Tomb's architecture reinforced her singular status. The burial chamber lay nearly half a meter below the adjacent king's grave, not as a secondary chamber, but as an independent construction. This separation, together with the seal's inscription, has led many scholars to argue that Puabi held power in her own right, potentially as a queen regnant or high priestess, rather than as a consort. Yet for all this wealth and the clarity of her titles, the tomb remains silent about her family, her origins, and the full scope of her rule. The evidence is overwhelming for status, but incomplete for identity. In the end, the treasures of PG 800 reveal a woman at the center of the world's first cities, but leave her biological story and the roots of her authority unanswered. On June 12, 2022, a single tweet claimed that Queen Puabi's DNA matches no living human. Within days, the phrase was everywhere, shared on TikTok, echoed in YouTube videos, and repeated in headlines that blurred the line between science and science fiction. The story spread quickly, but the evidence behind it vanished on closer inspection. Screenshots of supposed lab reports turned out to be generic stock images. No peer-reviewed article, no museum statement, and no published genome ever confirmed the claim. The Natural History Museum in London, which holds fragments of Puabi's remains, has stated repeatedly that no DNA analysis has been performed, and that any such work would require a formal proposal from a qualified research team. The practical barriers to testing are formidable. Iraqi Law 27 of 2006 protects all human remains from destructive analysis without government approval. Any attempt to export a bone sample for sequencing faces a maze of permits, joint curatorship, and strict oversight by the Iraqi State Board for Antiquities. Since the 1930s, Puabi's bones have passed between institutions, handled by generations of archaeologists and curators, further complicating the prospect of clean DNA extraction. The legal and technical hurdles are real, not theoretical. By contrast, ancient DNA research in Egypt has advanced rapidly. Over 30 complete Egyptian genomes have been published in the last decade, including from royal mummies. In southern Mesopotamia, not a single full genome from the Sumerian period exists. The difference lies not in the people, but in the preservation environment and the legal frameworks that govern sampling. The viral claim about Puabi's DNA fills a vacuum left by this absence. The real mystery is not a hidden alien genome, but the silence where a biological story should be, a silence shaped by the limits of science, law, and the passage of time. 74 bodies lay in rows beneath the surface of the royal cemetery, their positions uncannily precise. Many wore gold ribbons and lapis lazuli necklaces, echoing the luxury found in Puabi's chamber above. For decades, the cause and meaning of their deaths have been the subject of forensic scrutiny and debate. Early field notes described a mass sacrifice, but the evidence has proven more complex. CT scans conducted in the last 15 years revealed that nearly half of the skulls, about 45%, showed signs of blunt force trauma. The injuries were consistent in shape and location, suggesting a single heavy instrument was used, likely wielded in a controlled ceremonial act. No sharp weapon marks appeared on the bones, ruling out swords or axes. Among the dead, a male guard's crushed skull was found beneath a metal helmet, the force of the blow unmistakable. Chemical analysis detected traces of cinnabar, a mercury-based pigment, on several skeletons. This red powder, used in Sumerian ritual, may have been applied as part of the burial process, or possibly as a preservative. Toxicology reports found faint residues of opiates and arsenic, but concentrations were too low to have caused death. The results suggest sedation rather than poisoning, perhaps to dull pain or anxiety before the fatal blow. Stable isotope tests on bones tell a story of diversity. Some attendants had eaten diets rich in meat and dairy, others more plant-based foods. Strontium ratios point to varied origins. A portion came from the southern alluvial plains, others from regions farther north. These were not a single household staff, but a group drawn from across Mesopotamia, united only in their final, violent end. The precise reason for their sacrifice remains unresolved: ritual, loyalty, coercion, or a combination still debated. What is certain is that their deaths speak to a world where status, spectacle, and the afterlife were bound together in ways modern science is still struggling to decipher. By 2600 BCE, Ur stood at the heart of a world shaped by invention and exchange. Sumerian cities had developed systems for managing resources on a scale never seen before. Clay tablets, filled with cuneiform script, tracked every shipment of grain, livestock, and labor. Temple bureaucrats oversaw the flow of metals and stones from distant lands, while scribes recorded transactions in ledgers that defined the city's economy. Writing itself emerged not from a love of poetry, but from the need to account for goods owed and delivered. The treasures found in Puabi's tomb reveal the reach of these networks. Lapis lazuli, mined and cut in Badakhshan, traveled over 1,000 miles to reach Ur. Carnelian beads, with their deep orange-red hue, came from workshops in the Indus Valley, crossing the Persian Gulf and the marshes of Dilmun. Silver vessels can be traced by isotope analysis to Anatolia's highlands, while the gold in Puabi's headdress likely came from southern Arabia. Each item marks a connection, linked to Afghanistan, India, Anatolia, and Arabia by trade routes that spanned continents. Christopher Owens, a Sumerologist, points to the seal reading Puabi, Nin. In Sumerian, Nin means lady, queen, or priestess. The absence of a king's name is telling. Owens argues this title alone suggests Puabi commanded resources and labor by her own authority. The temple economy, with its storehouses and scribes, allowed elite women to wield both political and religious power, blurring the lines between ruler and priestess. Bureaucracy and trade fueled the spectacle of royal burials and shaped Ur's very identity. Recent breakthroughs in ancient DNA analysis have redrawn the genetic map of the ancient Near East. Studies led by Kilintz, Olalde, and Lazaridis have managed to recover partial genomes from sites in northern Iraq and Syria, though only about 1 in 10 burial sites yield usable DNA. The results reveal a patchwork of ancestries, local Neolithic farmers, migrants from the Iranian plateau, and a third, elusive component. This third stream, sometimes called a ghost lineage, cannot be matched to any sampled ancient population, but appears faintly in both Mesopotamian and early Bronze Age Egyptian genomes. The presence of this ghost ancestry hints at unsampled groups that once moved through the region, leaving traces in the genetic record, but disappearing from history. Each new dataset adds another layer of complexity, suggesting that the people of Sumer, including its rulers, were shaped by centuries of migration, exchange, and intermarriage. Yet, without a sample from Puabi herself, the question of her genetic heritage remains open. The scientific intrigue only grows. Her tomb preserves the evidence of power and connection, but her biological story is still missing. No laboratory has yet produced a full genome from Queen Puabi or any of her attendants. The obstacles are not just technical, they are legal and procedural. Iraqi Law 27 of 2006 strictly controls destructive testing of human remains, and both the Penn Museum and the Natural History Museum in London require formal permits and detailed proposals before any DNA can be sampled. Even if permission were granted, the remains have been handled by generations of curators, making contamination a constant threat. Mark Haber, a leading geneticist, points out that only a cleanroom extraction from the petrous bone, under rigorous controls, could yield results that meet scientific standards. Until these conditions are met, the question of Puabi's lineage remains open. The true enigma is not a hidden alien ancestry, but the silence left by missing data, a gap that keeps her origins, her family ties, and even her precise role within Sumerian society unresolved. The real mystery isn't alien ancestry. It's that Queen Puabi's true origins, family and lineage remain unknown, even as her tomb proves Sumer's vast power and reach. Today, ancient DNA science reveals ghost populations, but leaves her identity unresolved. Civilization's beginnings still hold secrets, just out of reach,